Every year, there are a handful of races that I look forward to above the rest. The 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Indianapolis 500, the Bathurst 1000, I could go on. Most of these races hold widespread worldwide popularity among motorsports fans, but today, I'm going to talk about a race that I don't think gets the attention that it deserves. A 24-hour trek through the Adenauer Forest and down the Döttinger Höhe. Yep, it's the Nurburgring 24. Now look, there's a lot to talk about with this event, and I could turn this into a 20-minute video if I really wanted to go in depth about everything, but for the sake of saving your time and preserving my sanity while editing, I'll split this video up into sections and keep it brief. Two major attributes that set this race apart from other major endurance races are the number of cars racing and the number of classes they're competing in. This year, 125 cars will represent 24 classes. This is around twice the number of cars that enter the 24 Hours of Le Mans and Spa 24 Hours across an additional 20 classes than those races feature. That all may sound like a bit of information overload, but the main class you'll likely be paying attention to is SP9. This class comprises the cars currently homologated by the FIA GT3 regulations. This being the biggest German endurance race of the year, the race is typically a shootout between the four main German GT3 heavyweights: Audi, BMW, Mercedes, and Porsche. In the past 5 years, each one has claimed the top step of the podium at least once. Despite these four manufacturers holding the majority of GT3 entries, Lamborghini and Ferrari both have a couple entries in their name as well. I'm not going to go too in-depth about the other 23 classes, but there are a few notables worth keeping an eye on. The SPX class is open to experimental cars that are similar to Pace on GT3 cars, but are not GT3 homologated. This year, the class will feature a single Glickenhaus SCG 004C and a modified Mercedes AMG GT3 using a steer-by-wire unit. The SP10 class features SRO homologated GT4 cars, there's a TCR class, and a handful of classes for different levels of road cars from Porsche Caymans, Opel Astras, KTM Crossbows, and for those familiar with Nurburgring 24 lore, the Foxtail Opel Manta. Nowhere else on Earth will you find a race of this scale with a car lineup this diverse, and it's something that adds multitudes of character to the event. Next up is the track. This isn't a 24-hour race around a track that's seen many modifications over the years in the name of safety. No. They call this track the Green Hell for a reason. A single lap around the combined Grand Prix circuit in Nordschleife will cost you over 25 kilometers of driving on the edge. That's almost 16 miles for my friends on the Imperial system. Many of you are probably already familiar with some of the track's most famous corners, but if you're not, I'll place a card at the end of this video to a qualifying lap for this race. It goes without saying that the drivers in this race are competing on perhaps the most difficult circuit in the world, which has been made even more challenging in the past from sudden rain and even snow. The size of this track means that it can be completely dry on one half of the track and absolutely pouring on the other, which definitely provides a unique angle as some drivers are stuck crawling around a circuit with standing water on slick tires. Finally, in my opinion, the best part of this event, it isn't a part of a championship. Yeah, I know that might not sound like a huge positive, but hear me out. Races like the Indianapolis 500, 24 Hours of Le Mans, Monaco Grand Prix, Bathurst 1000, the lot, are all point-scoring events for a series championship. This means that while winning remains the obvious goal, it's sometimes just as beneficial to play it safe and think bigger picture if you're trying to win the championship. That's what really sets the Nurburgring 24 apart. No points on the line, no championship scenarios, just a pure 24-hour battle for the top step of the podium and nothing else. Many would argue that Le Mans, the Indianapolis 500, and more were better races when they didn't count for a championship, myself included. I've summed this race up in a mantra before: no rules, just right. And yes, I did just steal that from the Outback Steakhouse. But I think that phrase sums up this race rather well. Sure, the race is sanctioned by the ADAC, and there are still regulations to follow and penalties assigned, but I think anyone who takes the time to watch this race for hours on end would realize that this race feels more old school than the rest. There aren't even safety periods throughout the entire race, only local yellows with enforced speed limits to prevent the field from being bunched up continuously. If you want to win this race, you truly need to earn it. Now if all of this was convincing enough and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I want to watch this race now, you'll be spoiled for coverage because this race is available in its entirety on the Nurburgring 24 YouTube channel with commentary from the Radio Le Mans team. They'll also have a handful of onboards to pick from during the race for those looking to run some split screens. I'd also recommend checking out timing71.org for highly informational live timing, and the unofficial SP9 Spotters Guide from user Ziomble444 on Reddit. I'll leave both of those linked in the description as well. Right, I think that covers everything. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate you leaving a like as always, and consider subscribing for more content like this in the future. I also made a channel Discord server recently, and I'll be hanging out there throughout the race this weekend. That too is linked in the description. For now, take care, and I hope to see you in the next video.